Hello, 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 and welcome to Hashtag Event Icons, where you get to chat with the icons of the events industry. Hi, I'm Alex Plaxen, your host today, and I'm very excited, very exhausted, like I'm sure a lot of you are. Yesterday was Global Meetings Industry Day, and it was a whirlwind day, full of excitement, full of Guinness World Records attempts, and tons of educational content presented all over the world. And that's actually what we're going to be talking about today. Is that exciting? How did Global Meetings Industry go virtual, right? Because 4 weeks ago, we thought all of these events would be face-to-face, and in 4 weeks, we were able to completely change the entire premise of Global Meetings Industry Day. And we're going to talk to one of the game changers who really made a difference. She hates that I'm going to be calling her a game changer, but it's true. So that's who we're going to be talking to today. Let's get to it.
It's Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, so you know what that means. It's time for another episode of Hashtag Event Icons,
presented by Endless Events.
The show where you get to ask the icons of the events industry anything.
Just go to www.event-icons.com to ask questions.
Our iconic guests will answer them live during the entire show. Before we get started, the more people we have watching, the better the conversation. So please help share Hashtag Event Icons
on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Just tell your friends to watch at www.event-icons.com.
Now, without any further delay, this is Hashtag Event Icons.
Anh Nguyen, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. She told me that it was good enough. So she can tell you herself, is the principal and founder at Spark Event Management. And her tweet changed Global Meetings Industry Day. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Alex.
So,
how are you?
I'm good. So Anh has been a longtime friend of mine, and I am super excited to now be able to say that we worked together on an amazing project. I was on the marketing team for hashtag GMID goes virtual. And Anh, share a little bit about your background, and then we'll kind of get into how this happened.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Alex. Hi, everyone. As Alex mentioned, my name's Anh Nguyen. Pretty close, Alex. Good roll on the NG. I own an event planning company up in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, called Spark Event Management. And I met Alex, I think, at a WEC or something a decade ago, maybe.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. And so we plan conferences, association events, corporate events, things like that. So obviously everything that's happened with the COVID-19 virus, our work firm and our work have been heavily impacted by this, like lots of the folks in the industry. So yeah, that's what we're dealing with up here in Canada. And we'll talk a little bit about how GMID Goes Virtual happened. But yeah, Alex, do you just want me to start talking about how it started, or?
So first, actually, since you are a first-time guest on the show, correct?
Yes.
So it's very exciting. We actually have a tradition here. We ask all of our first-time guests these questions. You have to answer them. And the first question is, what got you into the events industry?
Oh, I was going to say, I think my mom might be watching, so these questions better be PG.
They are PG.
What got me into the events industry? So when I was doing my business degree at the University of Alberta, I actually was going to be a computer programmer. I took a bunch of IT courses, took information systems, and was going to do that. But I started volunteering while I was in school for various student unions and associations, and ended up meeting a gentleman who had started an event planning company. And honestly, when I was in university, I didn't even think that event planning was a thing you could do for a living. I just thought it was like a hobby that you did on the side. But he offered me a job right out of school, and his company was just a small startup. It had, I think, like 2 clients. And was just building itself. And I kind of had to make a call between doing what I went to school for and what my formal training was in. and going to do what I loved, right? The thing that I would do for free, essentially, as a volunteer. And so I did that and never looked back. So sort of by accident, I got into event management, like a lot of us, I think, do. But yeah, just through volunteering and through spending some of my non-school time helping with the Students' Union stuff, just discovered a passion for it and was just thrilled that someone would pay me to do it.
I think that's for most of us, right? Like it's something we would love to do, but like we never knew it was a job.
Totally. And then when someone's like, I'll pay you, you're like, all right.
Done. Happy to do it.
Totally.
So the second part of the question is, if you weren't in the events industry, what would you be doing?
Oh, I was just talking to Julia Solaris about this today because I saw the movie Gattaca when I was in high school, and I really thought I could be a genetic scientist. So that's probably what I would maybe go back and try to do, except I didn't like cutting up animals in a lab. So if there was any way to skip that portion, I think I would do that.
Hey, everybody, Earth Day is coming up this month. Let's not cut up animals in a lab.
Yeah, let's not. I don't. That's why I couldn't do it.
So I am excited to kind of get started into a bit of a deep dive into this behind the scenes of how GMID Goes Virtual happened. And I think, we have to share the tweet for those who haven't seen it or are unaware. There was a tweet that went out, which kind of snowballed into this movement. And we have this tweet right here, the tweet that changed Global Meetings Industry Day. On March 13th, so it's exactly a month, right?
Yeah, a month and a bit.
Yeah, a month and 2 days. And put out a tweet to the world saying, maybe for GMID this year, we should just try to break the world record for largest virtual meeting ever held. How many event profs can we get to an online meeting? Everyone just shares their favorite thing about working in this amazing industry. At Meetings Mean Biz, at MPI, at PCMA HQ. And as you can see, there were 73 likes, 7 retweets, 10 comments. So share a little bit about kind of what happened after this tweet went out. Like, because I don't even know the story behind the scenes. Like, who reached out to you? How did it become this movement?
So March 13th was a Friday. I vividly remember that. And for anyone that was in North America, I think that Thursday night, Friday was when the whole COVID-19 thing really changed for us. So that was the night that the NBA sort of shut down, the NHL suspended their games. And, like Tom Hanks got it, which for some reason made it seem way more real in North America. I think up until then, we were kind of still in a bit of a bubble over here about the impact of this thing. And I had just spent the entire day prior to the 13th calling off an event that was supposed to start on the Sunday. So it'll start on the 15th. And like everyone, heart and soul goes into this project, and 2 days before it's supposed to happen, had to cancel it and spent, I think, 8 hours on a Zoom call with my client, figuring out how to pivot at that late stage. So just really drained, very emotional experience for everyone involved. And so the next morning, I think that tweet was at like 7 a.m, just feeling kind of disheartened and sad and, torn down a bit about what was happening around the world and in our industry specifically, watching sort of events after events getting canceled. So I put that out, and I use Twitter basically as my universal therapy. I don't really expect anyone to be listening or watching.
I want to say you and I probably started talking on Twitter before we ever met face to face.
Because we just like vent to this, this world where no one's supposed to be listening. So just put it out there is kind of therapeutic for me. And then the first 3 people to respond were Mary Lou Coupal, who is involved with Meetings Means Business and PCMA Canada East. Carol Lyle and Miguel. So Miguel, who obviously hosted the event yesterday. So those 3 folks just reached out to me and said, this is a great idea. Let me know how I can help. And Derek Orr actually also reached out, who eventually ended up providing the technical platform that we used yesterday. And that was March 13th, and I don't, on the Friday, and I don't think I really did anything with it until a few days later, where I talked to Sean Chang, who eventually was also on the team, and he was like, let's just do this. Like, let's just occupy this space and see what happens. So we bought a domain off of GoDaddy, GMIDgoesvirtual.com. We just used their like free website setup provider, set that up, and then just started reaching out to our networks, right? So Miguel reached out to his network, Sean reached out to his, I reached out to mine. We put out some asks on social media as how you and Lindsay got involved, just because we were like, we need someone to run the Instagram account. And it really kind of just snowballed from there, right? Like the power of our connections. If you have 3 good industry friends that want to help you, and they have 3 good industry friends that want to help you, all of a sudden this team of 50 people were involved in it. But it really was just those handful of people that initially reached out gave me kind of the encouragement and the support needed to just do something about it, right? Like, I think I've said to you guys lots, like, anyone can tweet something, but then what you do with it is what counts. So yeah, it was at maybe just the right time in the universe and the right time in terms of what people needed to see that weekend. But it kind of sparked some excitement in some people, and the rest is history, I guess, as they say.
So I actually have up here, I'm trying to pull this up. I have a screenshot that I took yesterday of all the people that were a part of this team. You just see all these incredible people who, you know, for some of them were close industry friends, like you and Sean and Miguel, and some of them I had never met before, and I was just like blown away at the caliber of talent
Totally.
that really just rallied behind this event. Tell me a little bit about kind of how these teams came together, how they worked together. You know, for those who don't know, you know, what did the behind the scenes look like?
Yeah, so the behind the scenes, I would say Slack should get sort of sponsor and credit
Right.
for this whole thing, because the first thing that we did was we set up a Slack channel. We had kind of an all hands call where I think, 30 or 40 of us dialed into it. And that, I think, was 3 weeks before GMID, where we were just like, hey, what is this? And what are we going to do? And who's going to do what? And it was totally chaotic, and there was no structure or anything. I think we spent half of the call just introducing ourselves to each other. Yeah. And then we set up a Slack channel and a Google Drive. So, and what the amazing thing about this whole initiative was that there was no hierarchy in terms of decision making, right? There was not like this needs to go to this person for approval, XYZ. We all kind of just bought into the idea. And I think the whole Guinness World Records attempt set that common objective. It set that 15,000 target, and we set ourselves sort of a vision of uniting the global meetings industry. And at lots of points that wasn't really clear, right? And we had lots of conversations about who is that and what are we doing? And it all kind of happened in a very iterative process. But the team just sort of started to separate into their areas of interest and where they wanted to support. And the amazing thing was everyone just wanted to lend their skills and resources, right? So everything from Rachel, who took her product and her snowball product and changed it and worked it so that it would work out for this event, to you guys at Nifty, who even things just like setting up a page where people could make donations, all of that kind of stuff. Everyone just sort of took their expertise and took their resources and lent it to the project. No questions asked, right? So we ended up having kind of a core team that worked on the marketing and the social and the communication and our external messaging. We had a team working kind of on what the 30 minutes actually looked like. We had Sean and his army working on rallying all of these associations to support the event. Yep. And then we had a team, the poor team that had to like pour through the Guinness World Record contracts and branding and all of that kind of stuff. And we didn't have a lot of time for back and forth and humming and hawing about things. So just really quick decision making. Everyone was really empowered to just do what was best for the event and for the team. And you know, this culture of this group just kind of organically built, that it was just lend a hand wherever you can and pitch in wherever you can, and everyone just owned a piece of it, right? So it was really inspiring to see. And I am oftentimes hit with the reality of the fact that none of us were ever in the same room, right? Like,
Right.
I never left my house through this whole process, and it's like crazy to think about, but yeah.
Well, just to give people an idea, like our use of Slack, I just had sent you a message about it an hour ago on Slack, and it notified me that we were close to the 10,000 messages that is free on the
That's a
platform.
limit. Yeah.
So that's
Slack,
like,
if you're watching, we could really use like
so that's
bump.
2,500 Slack messages a week on average, between 50 of us. And just to give you an idea of the kind of messaging that would go back and forth.
Yeah.
And
And the fact that, you know, half of the team was in Europe too, right? So it was like, I remember one night, I think I had worked till like 1 a.m, and Miguel was already awake over in Copenhagen. So then it was like, we really are like a 24-hour operation
we were
kind of thing. So you would wake up and have, you know, 30 Slack messages to check.
Well, that, and also it really was a global meeting because we had people all over the world watching. You know, even in Asia, we had people who were on the team working. So when you say it was a 24-hour process, it totally was, because we also had to think about our audience over there too.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. To the extent where, you know, things that you oftentimes don't think about if you're just planning a regional conference in Canada, even, it's like, oh, we need to check different computer servers and different firewalls over in Asia, and, you know, translating press releases into 5 or 6 different languages. And the diversity and the skill set of our team was just so amazing. Where I remember, you know, just putting something in the general chat being like, I need help with this. And 8 people would be like, oh yeah, no problem. I got it. It's done. Yeah. And it's like, okay, great. Right. Like there's organizations where there's paid staff that you don't get that kind of level of engagement and dedication. So it was just so brilliant to be a part of that.
Not even just dedication and you know, all of that, and the work ethic from everybody was incredible.
Totally.
But also when you think about the fact that a lot of these people were for companies that typically are competing for the same contracts.
Totally.
And it really was probably the most collaborative effort that I have seen in the events industry, of people coming together with these unique skill sets and able to work together towards a common goal.
Totally.
Was just a case study in and of itself of how the industry should operate in the future.
Yeah. And it was interesting because, you know, we didn't get, I guess whenever you start an event or a movement of this size and it gains that much attention, there is always lots of feedback that you get, right? Sometimes solicited, sometimes unsolicited. And one of the conversations I've had with a lot of people is about how it painted this sort of rose-colored picture of, we're all in this together and we're all united, and let's hug each other out, and how that's not necessarily a real representation of the business world, right? Which is totally true and totally valid. And what I find interesting in times of challenge like this is being able to hold those opposing thoughts, right? So I can love my industry and love my peers. And for example, in this group itself, Kate Cheney, Nisa Siltzer, we all live in Calgary. We all own independent, sort of small third-party event planning companies, and by all definitions are competitors, but they're both in this group too and part of this team. It's possible for us to respect and work together and collaborate with each other while still competing in a business landscape, right? Like you can hold those sort of opposing, paradoxical feelings at the same time, as we're humans, right? That's what makes us so interesting, is that you can have that lens and feel both of those things at the same time. And I think right now people are struggling with that more than ever, because it's like, I want to have hope, but I also want to be realistic, right? And how do I do that at the same time is a lot of the struggle of what's going on, that those tensions that we feel even internally. So yeah, it was really great to see that kind of collaboration and us working towards something for the whole industry.
And I think, what's interesting also is you talk about kind of this rose-colored picture of us all coming together in hugs and, hey guys, like, let's do this. It was not always like that, right?
No.
It was 4 weeks and we challenged each other. We presented ideas that got shot down that just weren't going to work, or we pivoted and said, well, maybe this won't work for this, but it'll work great for this. One example of that is the hashtag Why I Meet challenge, right?
Yeah.
I presented that as a way to market the event, and we pivoted and we're like, this isn't working to market the event, but how do we extend the event? This would be a great opportunity for extending the event.
Totally.
And for those who don't know, basically the idea behind the Why I Meet challenge is use the hashtag Why I Meet and share your story, share why you meet, either in a video or a post. We're getting incredible user-generated content, and we're hoping that this kind of movement of Why I Meet continues on. But that was originally a marketing tactic.
Totally, right? And you can't expect to bring 40 to 50 type A event planner, keeners together and have it all go smoothly, right? Like I joked a lot with someone about all the dress rehearsals, right?
I wasn't sure if we were going to talk about the dress rehearsals.
We're going to talk about it. So, you have 3 weeks. So by the second week, you're already into dress rehearsals without even really having a clear picture of what's going on, and the two technology platforms who have never worked together.
Yep.
And you're trying to run all of this from your house. And so for the people watching, what we did for our dress rehearsals was we did a rehearsal and we invited the whole committee to provide their feedback in a Slack channel, which, I don't know if I would do that again, but we did that. We did that 3 times. And I think it was either the second or the third time, the second time, where we were really ironing out a lot of kinks, and maybe the committee was having a bad day. It was like the shitty weather. I don't know, but they just laid into us, right? Like laid into us about how it wasn't going to work, how we needed to change everything. And I vividly remember on Thursday night just needing to like step away from my computer and like ride my Peloton for an hour to just like work out my pent up frustration.
Admittedly, I was not on the first dress rehearsal. I was on the second dress rehearsal. And if you saw the second dress rehearsal compared to the actual show and the third dress rehearsal, they were night and day. But yeah, there were technical difficulties. We couldn't hear things. There was just 5 minutes of silence and just polls popping up. And yeah, we were not polite about.
No, and talk about, the difference between being able to provide feedback face to face and reading someone's tone and their body language versus them just like typing off a quick Slack message,
like,
right?
This is not gonna work.
This is a disaster. So I don't even know what we were talking about, but the idea that it was all just like peachy keen all the way through, it certainly wasn't. And we did challenge each other, and lots of things got left on the cutting room floor, and lots of things got pivoted, like you said, to different strategies. But I think, like I said at the get-go, we were all just so set on the same vision and the same targets and the same goal that that kind of stuff helped sort of root us back to what we were doing, right? And the other thing that I think really helped was just the humor that we all sort of injected into everything, right? So when things went wrong, and I'll tell this story of like the Snowball registration system, which if anyone's not familiar with Snowball, it is an event marketing platform that basically uses your event influencers to spread the word about your message. So when Rachel heard about this event, Rachel from Snowball, she immediately lent her team her resources. They covered costs for things. And that was a real game changer. It turned this into a real movement, right? And in the span of, I think, 5 days, I asked her if she could like build a custom registration system where everyone's face could be displayed, and the form had to be custom built for our event, and they did it. And it wasn't without its challenges. And on the Monday so this week, like 2 days ago, when we first came back after the long weekend, we literally broke the internet. Like it was the day everyone waited till that day to register.
On Monday, we were like, the web registration's down.
Which shame on you, event planners, for waiting to the last minute to register, when that's the ultimate pet peeve for planners. But we literally broke the system, right? And Rachel didn't want me to talk about that, but I wanted to share the story of how quickly they reacted to it, right? And as a client, I don't expect vendors to be perfect, but the way that they react to things like that, and how quickly they fix it, and how quickly they're on it, and how honest and transparent they are, is what it's all about, right? So she spent all morning on a day that technically she had off to spend with her family fixing it for us. But it was amazing because it really was the day we broke the internet. It felt like Monday morning, the Slack's just going crazy. And event planners are so nuts, right? Like 19,000 messages being like, oh, I think your registration system's down. And it's like, yep, we know.
We got it.
Yeah. But even that, while it was happening, there was a humor about it, right? And a lightheartedness of like, oh my gosh, this is terrible timing, but what can we do to help? And, how do we fix this? But let's just keep ourselves in check. Don't take life too seriously on top of everything that's already going on. So, I think that kind of honesty and the humor and the genuine respect that we all have for each other really helped build that kind of culture where you could challenge each other and have those critical conversations, but still move the thing forward.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that people don't realize is like, there was a moment where people were literally saying like, if I was an attendee right now, I would be logging off.
Yeah.
And
in the dress rehearsal.
In the dress rehearsal, and considering we were trying to break a Guinness World Record where we needed everyone to stay on for 30 minutes, like that was a real concern. It's like if we have 15,000 people and 5,000 of them want to drop off, it was going to be a real problem. And so there was concern, right?
Yeah.
But it was amazing the way that the team came together, especially over that weekend, to really polish that out. Again, like you said, no one was ever in the same room as each other working on this. And so for the team to be able to come together and create such an amazing, polished content and show was quite remarkable. And we had the dress rehearsal on Monday, and it was right after that breakdown where we're like, is the registration even working?
Yeah. So for people watching, the timeline is like catastrophic dress rehearsal on Thursday, Good Friday, Saturday, Sunday, registration system goes down on Monday, last dress rehearsal where it's already 10 p.m. in Copenhagen where Miguel is, the event the next morning, right? So we're talking about in the span of 5 days with Easter in there. And, Lindsay dials into a call on Saturday for 2 hours on her birthday. So we can like vet the program, walk through it. And the sacrifices people made to make this thing happen from a personal perspective, and the dedication and the time put into it. We joked about like, hey, it would be awesome if anyone was getting paid for this, right? But so it was just a lot of dedication from everyone, which is amazing.
So talk a bit, because we've talked a bit about content and like the dress rehearsals and things like that. But how did the content team, we've got 30 minutes of content, which is not a lot of time.
Right.
As a professional speaker, I can say like 30 minutes is nothing. And to figure out some engaging, valuable content to present in 30 minutes had to be a challenge. Can you talk a little bit about what that was like?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of that is going to go to credit of that is going to go to Miguel and Jen, who from the get-go decided that they wanted it to be interactive. So with potentially 15,000 people watching online from their houses, that's obviously going to use some sort of technology. So our first call from a program team perspective was to Slido. And Uri and Sophia were amazing in terms of just, again, no questions asked, lending their services, lending their resources, lending their staff to put together originally it was 12 questions, right? You remember, and you were like, that's crazy. That's like way too many polls.
Too many.
So I think it eventually got cut down to 7. But what we wanted to do was get a pulse on the industry, right? So right now there's so much speculation. There's so much, when's your next event, and when do you think things are going to come back, and articles coming out every day about what's happening. So we thought, what better way if we have this large group of people there to get their actual data and their what's happening in their world. So Slido was our first call. We knew the biggest portion of our program was going to be polling and giving people a chance to have some input. And then we wanted to also have an emotional connection to the event, right? So the question about like, what are you going to do when this is all over? Or how are you feeling right now goes back to what I talked about in terms of people having conflicting feelings. And it was so great to see that. I think the 2 biggest words up there were, inspired, hopeful, but also like, conflicted and worried, and those types of words. Anxious. Right? Yeah, we're in there too, which is totally okay, because I think that means it's a real representation of what our industry's feeling. And then we, of course, included some time for the global representation of Meetings Means Business. So Meetings Means Business jumped onto this thing quickly, very, very quickly.
There's the word cloud.
Yeah. So you can see like the 4 biggest things are basically opposite words, right? Anxious, hopeful, uncertain, and optimistic. Like I can honestly say I feel all of those things in any given day, right? And all at the same time, kind of in like a jumble of emotions. So it's not surprising that you're seeing those words up there. But so we wanted to crowdsource as much as we could through the 30 minutes. And we knew we had to keep it engaging because, like you said, for our Guinness World Record application, people needed to be online for 30 minutes. And then we included some content, like I said, from Meetings Means Business. And then, hours of debate about what other content goes in there. And we eventually landed on that Brett Culp stage story. Which
was incredible, like people in tears the whole time.
And to be honest, Alex, like we've gotten this feedback and we discussed it as a group that it was like, was this too much? It's 4 minutes of a 30-minute presentation. It has a lot of pictures of brides in it, which, I brought that up and we've also heard that feedback, but wedding planners are part of this industry too, right? And they make up a huge part of this industry. And but I think what we want people to focus on was the story he was telling, right? Like I said it in the video that I taped the day of the event, that if you've ever gone to a concert, if you've ever felt emotions from a wedding, if you've ever gone to a sports game, if you've ever, felt total joy at your team winning a game or made a connection at a conference like you and I did, if any of those things have ever happened to you, you need to be out here supporting this industry, because these are the people that make those things happen, right? Yep. Whether it's a planner like me or a technology provider, down to the sort of frontline hospitality staff that are serving your meals and cleaning your bedrooms, right? Like all of us are what make those memories happen. And that's what Brett's story was about, right? So yeah, we narrowed it down on a couple things to talk to people's emotions, and then a couple things to gather some data, right? Which is sort of what we thought was kind of the middle ground between those rose-colored glasses where we all just get together and hug and cry for half an hour, but also making it tangible and practical and having some interesting data that we can share. And I've already seen people taking that and referencing it in certain conversations and things like that. So I hope we hit that mix right. And like I said, most of that credit goes to Miguel and Jen and the Slido team.
So here's another example of a question that was asked. What is the first thing you want to do once the crisis is over? And we've got travel is the big one, which is exciting, especially when you think about who this audience is. But you also look at the words around it. You see hug, family, and friends.
Totally.
which I think is so important to what this industry is and what we do.
Yeah.
Which is why I think, you know, we've got some great comments coming in. Sean, who worked on the team, said, personally, I'm glad we shared the 100 million moment video, which is Brett's video, because it speaks to that, right? It speaks to what makes this industry so special. And I think it's fascinating that we were able to touch in such a short amount of time on so much incredible content.
Yeah. And like you said, I don't want this just to be a whole hour of like how great everything was and how great we are. I mean, that would be great. We should do that. But we certainly challenged each other, and we understand that you know, and I'm going to talk about it because one of the most vocal people, I'm not going to say against it, but who questioned what we were doing was Aaron Kaufman. Mm-hmm. Who we had on a live interview with me to kind of share his perspective. And Aaron attended the event. I messaged him yesterday and I asked him on his perspective, and he didn't agree with everything that happened and you know, had feedback for us, but that's fine. You know, share your feedback and share what you think and share where this is meant to be, because that's actually the crux of what events is all about, right? Like, let's bring people together who have different perspectives and differing opinions and figure out a way to move everyone forward, right? So there were tons of other great GMID events that happened. We were just a small half an hour part of it. But the amazing thing for us was that we were able to bring together so many people, so many different organizations. Nobody owns this thing. Nobody made money off of it. Nobody, you know, can put their brand on it and say that they did it. It was just all so grassroots and so organically grown that I think is what makes it unique.
Which I think is something that the industry needs right now. Like, I've seen a ton of comments all across tons of different social media groups online about the work that our industry associations are doing, companies, leaders in the industry, things like that. So the grassroots movement of having this kind of for us, by us kind of event, I think is what gave it that special spark. There was a lot of content yesterday. Talk a bit about how the industry associations played a role, because we had all of their support, which was remarkable as well.
Yes, yeah, it was, and a lot of that credit goes to Sean. When I told him that I was doing this, he made a bunch of phone calls to his contacts and just started signing people up. And I think that why it was easy for all of the global organizations to sign up for it was, we didn't ask them for anything. We didn't ask them for anything other than to help us get the word out, right? There was no financial involvement. There was no partnership agreements. We didn't sign a single thing. Like, GMID Goes Virtual is not a real organization that has a bank account or a signing authority or anything like that, right? So we just said, we're doing this. Do you want to help? And I think partly we asked the right people at these organizations who are you know, influencers in their own circles. And they just started signing up. So for example, in Calgary, Dustin Westling and Lisa Marks are longtime friends of mine. So the first email I sent out was to them. They also just happened to also be board of directors on the International ILEA board, right? So they signed on, no questions asked. In one email, I vaguely explained to them what I was doing, and they were like, yeah, no problem. And we were just so inspired by the number of emails we got like that. And then once you kind of get a critical mass of some of the bigger names, it just kind of snowballs, right? So Sean and I are on the PCMA board. So we went to them and said, look, we're doing this. And once ILEA and PCMA are on board, and then you go ask MPI, then you go ask, you know, site, and it all kind of just builds on itself. But a lot of credit to the associations that signed on early when this was just a seedling of an idea. But eventually they all came on board, right? They all came on board. They were all super supportive. And in the end, some of them did provide some financial support to help us get this across the finish line. But yeah, it really was because it was built by event professionals for event professionals. That how do you say no to that? It's like, I'm not going to help you. Okay.
Right.
Like,
Well, and I had the unique privilege of interviewing a lot of these people
yeah.
who came on. Miguel and I, and Leanne, and even Sean. We were all on the marketing team, and in the weeks beforehand, we were bringing these people on and doing random Facebook lives and interviewing them and saying, what does this mean to you? Why are you behind this? Which we got a lot of great feedback on. All of those videos and everything are on our new YouTube page, which we're in the process of attempting. Nothing goes right. We're in the process of attempting to get the entire show
Like,
up.
where's
Show
the
up on
password?
YouTube
I
right
don't
now.
know.
So we're working on getting everything up on YouTube so we can start sharing the link so people can rewatch some of that content. But it was interesting because I got to also have conversations with these people before we ever went live, right? So I had a lot of candid conversations with them, and there was one common thread, which was the passion behind this movement, because even these people who run their own industry associations full of thousands and thousands of event professionals, they too are also event professionals. This meant something to them also.
Right. Yeah.
So when you say it's an event for, by event profs for event profs, you're also talking about these industry leaders of these associations and organizations who are able to rally behind us.
Yeah, and who probably personally, like I remember one day waking up and Miguel had interviewed Karina from IMEX, right? And it's like who are event professionals that are going through a lot of shit themselves, right? And I think this was a hopeful way to remind them of why they love this industry and why they're part of it and what got them there. And like Ruud Jansen woke up one day and I didn't even know the interview was happening, and you're just like, oh, this is amazing, right? That these people are so behind it, because I think you're right. We sort of tapped into like the heart of why people work in this industry and why they joined it to begin with. And that was it was just so amazing that eventually you got to like the who's who of the industry backing this. And I'm still not even 100% sure how it all happened. And I feel like verbally processing this while I'm on this podcast with you.
Is this like a therapy session for you? A therapy session in front of everyone, in front of the world?
I'm having like a real-time therapy session with Alex. But it was Leanne Calderwood today made fun of me because I've been using the word humbled a lot, because I honestly can't think of a different word. It is humbling. It is humbling to think that this all came through a tweet, right? And that we started something that people have bought into, and yeah, there's no better word to describe how I feel right now.
And I think what was so special about the tweet was not that it was a tweet, right? Because a tweet is a tweet, right?
I tweet a lot of things that nobody cares about.
Sometimes a tweet goes viral and you're like, why? Yeah. But I think what was so special about it was it tapped into an idea, a concept that meant something to everyone. I think a lot of us in the industry, we've lost clients. We've had to cancel and postpone events. We've had to put things on the back burner. One of the words that came up in the Slido poll was lost, right? People were feeling lost. And I think that day, that time that you posted it, the day before you mentioned the NHL being canceled, right? I was supposed to be at an NHL game that night. And that morning was the last person I actually saw face to face before I started self-quarantining. I had breakfast with David Adler that Thursday. And we talked about this, and we talked about how the industry was going to move forward and what was going to happen. And it was a remarkable, I keep saying remarkable because it is, it's like blows your mind when you think about what we were able to accomplish. But we had a great conversation about the industry leaders and how this industry is looking for leadership and people to come together. And I think that's what was so great about your tweet was it was a call to action. right? For those of us who are feeling lost, for those of us who are feeling depressed and not sure what our future held, it gave us something to look forward to. It gave us a mission. It gave us a purpose, right? I think for a lot of people in the event industry, they're struggling with, have I lost my purpose?
Totally.
And so I think that was one of the things that really resonated, was like, here's something I can be a part of. And yes, there were 50 something people working on it. But every single person who shared a tweet, shared the link on social media, did the snowball, shared emails, told their family and friends to log on, they all were part of this too. There were so many calls to action and rallying cries around this event that it was easy to latch onto it and go, this is mine. I want to be a part of this. Totally,
right. And that's, the conversations that we're having now about what happens next. When we started this, we never expected, we thought, okay, April 14th happens, April 15th, everyone just like goes their separate ways and we'll like see you at IMAX kind of thing, right? But even the conversations we're having today about, well, now all of a sudden we have this energy that we've created and it would be a shame to not do anything with it. So figuring out what that looks like and figuring out where it goes from here. And I think you're right. It's just because the industry needs some agile, organic, grassroots leadership, right? And no disrespect to the associations that are out there doing the stuff that they're doing in the advocacy and the work that they're doing with legislation and all that kind of stuff is fantastic. And there's a bunch of them providing resources and education. But I think what we really are yearning for as an industry is just like movement and going out there and doing something. And like you said, feeling like we're part of a mission and feeling like we have purpose, which I think is why this thing has turned into what it is, right? Because I certainly don't need to sit and listen to a panel of esteemed whatever they are talking about what the impacts of COVID are and the research that we're seeing and what politics has to say about it. There's so many people doing that already. It's more just like, what can the people who are in the trenches, the people who are down here day to day actually delivering events, what can we do, right? I don't want to just sit here helpless in my house waiting for this to be over. I want to be part of the solution. And I don't know what that looks like. You don't know what that looks like. We don't know what that looks like as a group. But we know that the power of 15,000 people are behind us globally, right? So we're going to figure out what to do with it. But,
So I do
literally
have
verbally process it.
100%. People are loving it. We're getting so many comments. I have never seen this many comments on an episode in a long time. So this is resonating with people. People are loving this. And I do actually have. She might be. We actually have some breaking news. Breaking news. I never get to do this. This is exciting. This must be like how news broadcasts get to talk. Breaking news. We just got word. The video is uploaded and ready to watch. Don't run away. We have 13 more minutes where we're going to be talking, and don't leave yet. But if you did miss the show or you want to go back and watch parts, it is up on YouTube right now.
It was a struggle to get it up there.
Breaking news.
Thank you to Derek for doing that.
Yes. Yeah, so don't go yet. We have a few more things I want to ask Anne about. If you have questions, please throw them in the comments. We'll ask Anne some questions from the audience as well. But we have a question from Renee. She asks, what will help? How do we help? No purpose has been so difficult. So what's next?
Renee is so humble. She's at home like homeschooling her teenager. So she has more purpose than I do right now. I certainly don't have to teach a teenager grade 10 math or whatever it is. What will help? You know what? We are going to regroup next week and talk about what this looks like. There is a lot of great ideas surfacing. The great thing you can do right now is on our website, there is a page called What's Next. And on there is an open-ended poll powered by Slido that you can just enter your ideas. It can be anything. There's stuff on there right now about technologies that we can use. There's stuff over there about medical research, and anything and everything you can think of under the sun is there, and you can vote on ideas that you like and connect with people because it doesn't have to be anonymous. So put your idea in there, with your name. What you can do as a person is just take some action in your small realm of the world, whatever it is. If you have an idea, if you see an idea that you like, just connect with them. Do what Mary Lou and Carol and Miguel did for me, where it's like, oh, that's an interesting tweet. Even if you just provide a little bit of encouragement, being like, I think that's a great idea and I'll help you if you want to do this. That was what changed everything for me, right? So if you have a great idea, put it in our What's Next poll. If you see an idea in that poll that you like, connect with that person and ask them how you can help them, and connect with each other. We don't know what this is going to look like, but what it's not going to be is a giant hierarchical organization where you have to fill out 100 forms to get your idea a grant that takes 7 months to execute. That's not what this is going to be. We started as a grassroots organization where we tap into people's passion and their skills and their desire to create change. And that's what I hope this will always be about, right? So Renee, if you have an idea, or if you want to help someone with an idea, or if you want to reach out to me and we can brainstorm things, whatever it is, it's just, I think, just move, just take some action and do something, right? And I had this conversation with Aaron, who I said is probably been a great critic of ours, is like, just do something, whether I agree with it or not, just do something. It's better than doing nothing, right? And you never know who might buy into it and who might want to be a part of it, right?
So we have a question from the audience. Someone
Is it my mom?
It might be your mom. It actually doesn't say it, just says Facebook user.
Oh, it's probably my mom.
I apologize, Facebook user, for not knowing who you are. One of the big surprises I don't think people were expecting was we had a musical performance from Five for Fighting. Yes. Which was incredible. I love. I'm a big hockey fan, so I've always loved Five for Fighting. If you know that reference, we're going to be friends. But share how that happened.
So the amazing thing about this whole thing is that I don't know how everything happened. I certainly acted as a hub to help coordinate some efforts, but there was a bajillion things that you guys all did, some of which I never even knew about. But how this video happened was, I think there was a conversation about how Five for Fighting had performed at a previous PCMA event. And Rachel had made a connection with him, and they had stayed in touch, and she was like, oh, I'll reach out to him and get this video. And then it kind of fell off the radar in terms of everything else that was happening. And then all of a sudden the day before, it's like, oh, here's this amazing musical performance from Five for Fighting. And that's exactly what I'm talking about, right? The initiative that people took, and Rachel so Rachel Riggs, just from Merit, she just took that and she just did it. I didn't ask her. We didn't request it. She brought the idea up in a meeting, and we were like, sure, run with it. And she did, and she made it happen. And you make it sound so easy, but it's like, how do you get a musical video from Five for Fighting? And that was just like the power of this group, right? Was like, you put an ask out there, like, who knows this, or who knows how to do this, or what's this? And people just picked it up and ran with it. There was no orders given. There was nothing dictated to anyone. Everyone just owned their piece of this event and delivered on it, right? Like I said, when I wake up and you'd interviewed someone on Facebook Live, never knew that was happening. Miguel was doing the same thing overseas. It all was just, I think people just, like you said, wanted to be part of it and wanted to contribute what they could. But that was all Rachel Riggs, Five for Fighting. That was all her.
So there was another musical performance that people
oh my
may
God.
not be aware of. I'm not going to show the video. You can go to the YouTube channel. It's the first video that was posted. There was a GMID event profs lip sync video that we used to help market the event.
Yeah.
Go watch it. And did a phenomenal job.
Am I turning red?
A little bit.
I think I'm just more concerned about it for like child protection laws, where I certainly forced my daughter to be in the video with me, and she's only 1.5. So when she sees this in like 6 years that she's on the internet doing this, I'll be in trouble. But no, it was so fun, and that was all you, right? Like, and same thing, right? When you put that out there, I was like, who's gonna do this? So the whole thing is us lip syncing to Katy Perry, and it was Alex's idea. To make a fun video, and that lightheartedness and that human side of this, right, is what it really showed. And I think that was the intention behind it, right? To show the faces and to show that we're real people and we have families and all of this stuff. And a bunch of us did it.
I think there were 3 dogs, 2 kids.
Yeah.
a lot of animal print outfits.
I still don't know who the guy was that's like in the jeans with the stuffed animal. Was that Steven?
No, so that is Mr. Sacramento. He dressed as Tiger King and held a stuffed animal, and it was phenomenal.
The whole time I thought that was Stephen Melville.
So Steven was on our team. No, that was not Steven.
Sorry, Steven.
Go check it out. It's worth a watch.
Yeah, it was fun, right? And those are the things we're gonna remember. The world sees one thing, but the things we'll remember on the back end are things like that, and that dress rehearsal, which is hilarious now in retrospect. At the time, not.
And it went so well that it's like, oh, there was a horrible dress rehearsal you would have never known.
Yeah. And those are the things we'll remember, right? And the things that will make us lifelong friends, right? And Rachel Steffen from Snowball sent me a LinkedIn request yesterday because I didn't know her before this, right? And that was the craziest thing. A lot of us didn't know each other. She sent me a LinkedIn message and she was like, we're connected for life. And you're like, we really are. Like this was a life-changing experience that we all went through. And sure, the end product was showcased to the whole world, but all of the stuff that happened behind the scenes is what kind of bonds us together.
Well, and it's funny because I look at some of the industry leadership who have been in this industry for 50 years, and you see them being recognized at these dinners and things, and people come up and they tell these stories that you're just like, I can't even relate. I have no idea what this industry was like back then.
Totally.
And you sit there and you wonder, okay, who do I know who I'm going to have these lifelong connections with? And for a lot of people on the team, I already knew or I was already friends with, but this bonded us in a way that did not exist before. And for some people, I never thought that I'd get to work with this person and this person on the same project
at the same time.
At
totally.
the same time.
Yep.
So it was interesting seeing people in a new light also, and like working with them to make something like that happen.
Yeah. And I think the big thing is, what I don't want this to be is like this weird cliquey inside joke thing for the event industry. I want to make clear that this is open and still remains open to anyone and everyone, right? We don't know what that looks like. We don't know how we're going to stay in touch or how we're going to communicate with people or any of that. But it is open to everyone, and it is about community, and it's about our industry, and borders aside, we want everyone to get involved. So through that What's Next poll, reach out to us, reach out to let's meet at gmidgoesvirtual.com is our address, and send us your ideas, send us your thoughts, send us, reach out to us on social media. What this industry needs isn't another exclusive club that only a certain number of people can be in. What this industry needs right now is to be brought together and to crowdsource ideas from some of the brightest people. And sometimes the brightest people aren't the people who are, talking all the time, not using Twitter as their therapy outlet, right? So please, if you're watching this and you see this and you think, I don't have anything to add to this or to offer. You're wrong, right? Like send us your ideas and get in touch and get involved. 3 weeks ago, I certainly know I've had moments like that where it's like, oh yeah, there's all these great people doing these great things in this industry and I'll help where I can, but I'm just an event planner in Calgary. Like, what am I going to add? Just push past that voice and push past that self-doubt and reach out to us and be part of this, because we need you.
We do. And there is no limitation to who can be a part of this. There's going to be
we don't even know what this is.
we don't know what it is. You get to be a part of building this. We're going to have people from this team who drop off and don't have time to continue working, and we're going to have new people come in and new leadership to move the next thing forward. We're looking for ideas. We want to know how to continue to bring this to the industry, because I think it is necessary. I think this movement has started, and I don't think anyone wants it to stop.
Yeah.
So we're on the hour. I don't want to take up too much more time.
I don't know if you heard, but my baby is home.
So last question. You've shared some resources. Go to the website, check out the replay on YouTube. Last question for you. If you could only pick one, what is your one tip you have for event planners?
I think it's just what I said. It's really easy right now to feel like you don't have a purpose and to feel like you're not contributing, or that you certainly wouldn't have anything to give back to the community. And I think push past that imposter syndrome, push past that doubt and reach out to your one close friend, like I did, right? I just reached out to Sean and I said, this is my idea. Do you think it's crazy? And you never will know what happens, right? And the power of our industry is how connected we are and how willing we are to help. So yeah, I would say reach out to your one friend, share your idea, share it with us on our What's Next page, and you never know what might happen.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been incredible. The audience has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for your comments, your questions during this episode of Event Icons. We go live every week, and the episodes are available the following Tuesday on all your favorite podcast apps. You can also watch live at event-icons.com or on any of our social channels. There you can see show notes, links to the resources shared, and you can join the chat just like some of the people whose names you saw pop up during this as well. And we want to know what you think. Contact us. Let us know who you want to see on the show moving forward. And yeah, and for anyone looking to reach out, get in contact with you, where can they find you online? Obviously, Twitter is one of those places.
Yeah, if you want to hear my stream of consciousness, Twitter is the best place. So my Twitter handle is just ATNGUYEN. That's maybe a harder to remember. So just reach out at GMID Goes Virtual, and they'll get you in touch. GMID Goes Virtual on every social platform, gmidgoesvirtual.com. And they'll track us down.
Yeah, we had a question. Jordan asked the URL, so it's gmidgoesvirtual.com, and you can get more information there.
Yep.
Great. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you everyone who watched. Get some rest.
Yes.
And we will see you next week here on #Event Icons.
Thank you for joining us for another amazing episode of #Event Icons.
To catch all the bonus content, resources mentioned, and an invite to our Facebook and LinkedIn groups,
Head to www.event-icons.com. Also, let us know what you thought about this week's episode. Share your biggest takeaway. Just tag your post with #Event Icons. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern, right here on #Event Icons.